Hello, today we're going to review for our upcoming CFA Common Formative Assessment, and that assessment deals with simplifying expressions and solving equations. So let's start with simplifying expressions. When we simplify an expression, we do not find the value of the variable. So I want you to notice there's no equal sign here. So we're not going to be able to find what y or x equals. We're just trying to create fewer of these terms. So sometimes they give us the directions like this. Simplify the following expression by combining like terms. Other times they might tell us to write an equivalent expression. So we're going to start by gathering up our like terms. I'm going to circle this 8x. It just happened to be first. And so now I want to look for other terms that have an x variable in them. So this one has a y. I'm going to skip it. This one has a 6, but I have to take the sign in front of it with it. So I'm going to circle positive 6x. And as I scan the problem, I don't see any other variables that have x or terms that have x in them. So I'm going to write two terms down on my line. I have a positive 8x and this positive 6x. These are called like terms. So next, I'm going to gather up the terms that have a y in them. And there's two terms, but it's very important that I take the sign in front of the term with it. So I have a negative 4y and a positive 3y. So those are going to go on a separate line because I want to signify these are different sets of like terms. I have x terms, and now I'm going to have y terms. You're going to notice that I'm using the operation sign as a positive or negative. For instance, I'm writing the 3y as a positive because there's a plus sign, and I wrote the 4y as a negative 4y instead of minus 4y. So now I'm ready to combine the two pairs of like terms. I'm going to start with the x's, and I work with what's called the coefficient in front of them. I have 8x and I have 6x, and when I combine, I'm actually adding, so that's why I'm putting plus. When I add those, I get 14x. So those combine to be 14x. Next, on the other set of y terms, I have a negative 4 coefficient, means a number in front of a variable, and a positive 3. And when I combine terms, I'm adding. When I add these two, I'm going to get a negative 1y. So now I have one more step. I need to put these together as an expression. And so I can write it a couple different ways. I can write this as 14x minus 1y. But since it's 1y, often it's expressed like this, 14x minus y. So if I have a 1 in front, I can go ahead and just not include that coefficient. So they'd probably answer it this way in a book. So now let's compare that to solving an equation. When we solve an equation, we do find the value of the variable. We do this by using the opposite operation than the one that is given. So the directions are going to say something like this: find the solution for the following equation. So they're going to ask us to find a solution. And a solution looks something like this: x, or whatever variable you might have. I'm just going to make one up. I'm going to put a equals 7. So that's what a solution looks like. We start this by building what we're calling our wall, and that's to remind us whatever we do on this side, we have to do exactly the same thing on this side. So I am registering this little division bar here. So this is x divided by 6. So I want to do the inverse, or the opposite of dividing by 6. So I'm going to multiply by 6 on both sides. So I'm going to multiply by 6, and I'm going to multiply by 6. What that accomplishes is I'm able to cross these out, cancel them out, or in other words, there's a 1 here, and that leaves x. And on the other side, 4 times 6 is 24. So my solution is 24. Now let's go back to simplifying expressions. Let's recall when we simplify an expression, we do not find the value of the variable. So the directions say here, use a distributive property to create an equivalent expression. So above, we actually created equivalent expressions. It means that they mean the same thing as what we're given. They're just simplified. We have fewer terms. So now here, how we're going to simplify is we're going to get rid of these parentheses. We don't want to have those. We don't want these numbers or terms trapped inside the parentheses. So if you recall, here's what the distributive property looked like. We had to take -3 times 2. So -3 times 2. Recall, this is side by side, so we multiply. Then we're going to go back to this -3 times the second term. And the second term has a minus, which I'm going to use as a negative with it. So I have -3 times -4w. So now this is going to become one term. In your calculator, you could put -3 times 2. And that answer should be -6. So now let's go on to the next terms. We have -3 times -4w. So use your calculator, or we can use our mark our face, and -3 times -4 is a positive. So 3 times 4 is +12, and I have the w. But we have one more step. We need to make this an expression altogether, and I have a problem because right now I've written it as two terms. Here's a term, here's a term. Because I want it to be one expression, I'm going to hook it together using a plus sign. And the reason I chose a plus sign is because this number is positive. So the answer is -6 plus 12w. Now, last one. Let's go look at our next equation. This is a two-step equation. I have to get rid of two numbers. I see 5 that's with the x, but there's another number on this side. So this is going to take me 2 solving steps to eliminate the 5. I'm going to eliminate the 3. So I'm going to always start with the constant, the number that's not with the variable. And since I see -3, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to add 3. And I have to do it to both sides. I should see +3 to both sides. What happens here is it eliminates it or zeroes it out, dropping down my 5x. And on this side, 12 plus 3 would be 15. So these two things, these sides are still equal, but I'm going to continue now to solve. So I see 5x next to each other, and side by side means multiply, so I do the opposite. I'm going to divide by 5 because that's the number I want to eliminate, and I'm going to divide by 5 on the other side because that's what solving, when we solve, we have to do the same thing on both sides. That again eliminates my 5 divided by 5 is 1, or they cross off, leaving x, and on the other side I have 3. So the solution for this is 3. Good luck on your CFA, and thanks for watching the review.